What do Brad Pitt, Chris Pratt, and Jonah Hill have in common with advanced data analysis? The answer is Sabermetrics. Sabermetrics is a series of advanced statistical analyses that are used to better quantify baseball players' performance on the field with their numbers. So we're going to go into that a little bit, but let's first go into the history of baseball data collection. So in 1858, the box score was created. Essentially what that was is it was a measure of everything a player did on the field. If they got a hit, that's one. If they got a catch out, that's another. And they put all these all together so that someone could look and they could read the stats and how players did. Eventually, that turned into, they combined those statistics and made ratios. For example, the most famous baseball statistic is batting average, where you take the amount of hits, which is the amount of time you hit the ball and get on base, and divide that by the amount of times you're at bat, meaning go to the plate. And essentially, through this, we were able to now quantify how well players do in baseball. Then baseball became a professional sport in 1876. And from then on, people realized this was a great way to make money. And because of that, this business became a thing. The sports business. Baseball teams that were successful and made money, they bought better players. And something came about called the sports success cycle, which I have made my own version of here. I bet it exists there somewhere else in a different form, but this is mine. So to start it out, your team is successful. They win a lot of games. Because of that, the fans begin to take an interest in the team. We as humans, we like to be successful, and we like to align ourselves with people that make us feel successful, like a team. So they begin to take an emotional investment in the team, and therefore, the team makes a larger profit. Because these people are spending more money. These fans are spending money on tickets, they're spending it on merchandise, on licensed goods. So this team makes money. That team that makes money then uses that money to sign better players, because these players, they want to play for successful teams and they want to make money. They use this money in order to buy these players. These players make the team more successful. That's why you get teams like the New York Yankees and the Boston Celtics, who everyone knows, Boston Red Sox, who everyone knows, and they are successful almost every single year. It also works the other way. If a team is mediocre, fans don't take an interest, they don't make a lot of money, they can't afford better players, and they get stuck in that cycle. So the question became, how do these mediocre teams get out of that cycle of mediocrity and become successful? They needed to find undervalued talent. There were some data analysts who belonged to an organization called the SABR, which is the Society for American Baseball Research, that came together to try to find new statistical ways to quantify a player performance and find those undervalued players that maybe don't shine in traditional statistical measures, but they might in more advanced statistics. So the most famous one, his name was Bill James, and he started coming up with ways to challenge traditional statistics. He started publishing them and called them Sabermetrics, Saber coming from SABR. And so his organization, they started coming up with all these new statistics that challenge these specific ones. To talk about batting averages don't quantify every single time you get on base, because you can get on by getting 4 balls or getting hit by the pitcher. So the on-base percentage was created, which adds getting 4 balls and getting hit by the pitcher to the numerator and the denominator to come up with a better way to see if someone's getting onto the base. Then there's also the slugging percentage, which came about because people realized that just your hitting doesn't really quantify how well you do to get into scoring position, because you could be hitting first base hits every single time and not getting to third base. The slugging percentage assigns a point total to each base that you can get to, multiplies that all together, divides it by the amount of at-bats you have, and then you end up with a slugging percentage, which shows how well players are at hitting hard and getting into scoring position. Now this was all kind of theory until 2002. That's where the movie Moneyball was made about, but there was a general manager named Billy Beane of the Oakland A's. And their 3 best players left, and they were already a pretty mediocre team. So with a budget of $40,000, the 3rd lowest in the entire league that year, they had $40 million. They had to try to figure out how to build a team that was successful. In contrast, New York Yankees had $140 million to spend on players. So how are they going to do that? Billy Beane went and found his assistant general manager named Peter Brand, who was an economist who studied sabermetrics widely and believed in them very strongly. So the 2 of them started applying sabermetrics, and they acquired some talent that people were really confused about. They didn't know why they were getting these players because they were so bad in traditional statistics. But they saw that they were undervalued and that they would perform well if we really looked at their actual advanced statistics, their sabermetrics. So they hired all these people together, and at first it didn't go very well. But they eventually went on a 20-game win streak, which was a record at the time and unprecedented. They were so successful. And they ended up ending that year tied with the New York Yankees for the best win percentage in the league, which they saved $100 million and had the same result. They didn't win the World Series that year, but obviously people took notice because they were able to build that successful of a team for much less of a price. And sports is a business. So people started looking at this and saying, if we can have success with less money, these sabermetrics, they must be important. So the Boston Red Sox were in mediocrity. They started following sabermetrics as well, ended up winning a World Series. And from then on, almost every single team in Major League Baseball has a sabermetrician on their team. And it started to spread even into other sports. Most famously, there's Daryl Morey. He is the general manager of the Houston Rockets basketball team. He is an avid follower of sabermetrics and has spent his career trying to apply them to basketball. He applied them to find a very undervalued bench player on Oklahoma City Thunder and said if that person was given the right opportunity, they could be a star. That person was James Harden, who has been the MVP and is considered one of the best players in the league. So obviously, in conclusion, sports is a business, and sabermetrics and data analysis is the way to make your business perform better. It's not super popular in most sports outside of baseball, but one day I believe that sabermetrics and advanced data analysis will be so important that those statisticians and those data analyzers will be as important to the team as the players themselves.